I'm excited to be covering today because I've had a lot of people write into me personally and say, Sarah, these gratitude posts are pissing me off. And then I feel guilty about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, and it's happening over and over and over. And then other people are like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to say I'm grateful for anything because I don't want to make anyone else feel bad. And it's just been this really different experience this year. So I really wanted to acknowledge it. All right, ladies, I've been hearing from people that it's like, it feels weird this year. And I don't think it's COVID, quite frankly. I mean, part of it is, I think. I'm gonna do my best to cover all of it today because I think it's really important. First and foremost, if you are finding that the gratitude posts are bugging you, or you don't wanna post your own, or you feel like you're bragging when you post your own, this is something I've really seen, and I think it's like a big deal. And the reason I say it's a big deal is because I know that we have some pretty amazing women in this community who really care about other people. So if that's how you're feeling, that tells me something is going on. And I think what it is, this is just a guess, I think what it is after so many losses, and we're talking actual losses, right? If you lost a person, or if you lost the ability to have prom, or you had a wedding plan, all those things we've talked about all year long that I know everybody's tired of talking about. But here's the thing, our inner rebel comes out. We found this around like week 6 or 7 of the shelter in place orders all of us went through. It's like, F this, I'm so over it, I don't care. And logically, you can know that that's probably not a great way to go about this. Like logically, your brain goes, yes, and there's a reason you're doing this. Like this is the right thing to do. And the inner rebel starts to take over. And that's part of what I think is going on with these gratitude posts of people. I could not believe, you guys, I wasn't even gonna talk about this. Like it's like, yay, let's all be grateful, hooray. Except that there were so many comments, and I've just sort of like sat back and watched and seen them come in, and people are annoyed. They're like, I don't want to talk about this right now. And I find that really interesting. Now, if you haven't listened to episode number 45 with Peggy, we also had Peggy live in this group for you guys. It might be a good idea to go back and listen to that. Just an idea, just to sort of recognize what the philosophy and the idea is behind all of those posts, or why people think that it's important to do in the first place. And just remind us of that. But then to recognize that what's actually coming out is your inner rebel, who's like, stop freaking telling me what to do. Stop telling me I'm supposed to be grateful for stuff when I'm pissed. Stop telling me I'm supposed to be grateful with stuff when I can't see my family this year. Stop telling me I'm supposed to be grateful for stuff when I'm so sick of this. I don't want to hear that this year was hard anymore. I don't want to hear about, right? Like that sort of an energy is starting to take over. So I just want to give you a real quick, simple response to that, which is almost like, you guys, have you ever been in the supermarket when a 2-year-old goes nuts? Like, have you ever seen that where it is just like, ah, and you just go nuts, go nuts, go nuts. And they're on the floor and they're throwing the temper tantrum. And the more the parent or anyone else in the store tries to help, the worse it gets. That's the inner rebel on display. And as we get older, we learn how to not do that anymore, sort of. Except you've seen it. You've seen the adult version of the temper tantrums, right? I think I've shared this before. It's my favorite. It usually happens at like the post office or the DMV. Is there nobody else who can work back there? Right, that kind of that's the adult version of the temper tantrum. So, and the other adult version of the temper tantrum is stop telling me what to do. And that, shut up. I don't care that you're grateful for stuff. I hate everybody. Like that energy, and we're hearing it, or I'm hearing it, and probably because of what I do. So if I'm hearing it out there in the ethers, I'm gonna assume you guys are probably experiencing a little bit too. And I would so love to help you turn that around this week. So just like watching the temper tantrum in the grocery store with the child, what you want to do is just sort of look at it and go, wow, you're having a hard time with this, huh? And that's it. I know, it's really hard. I know, I hear you, I know. But part of that inner rebel experience is nobody is seeing me and nobody's hearing me. And I know I say it all the time, but you guys, to coin the phrase from my beautiful Brendon Burchard, whom I love and adore, he says this all the time and he's spot on. Common sense is not always common practice. It's one of my favorite things he says, and it's absolutely true. You guys can know this up here, right? Just like you knew when your inner rebel kicked up around other things, you knew logically you still had to follow the rules, but you're pissed about it. And you're allowed to be pissed about it. You're allowed to be frustrated that maybe this year doesn't look the same. You're allowed to be annoyed by family members. You're allowed to be annoyed by me. You're allowed to be annoyed by everybody that you bump into who's like, la la la. You're like, God, shut up, don't do that. Like, that experience is valid. And so first and foremost, I want to give you permission to feel it, because not everybody's giving people permission to just be pissed this year. It's okay. And you're like, and then they're like shoving gratitude on top of you, right? You're like, but also understanding logically, you know, I've brought you experts who've told you over and over again that it can absolutely physiologically change the state of your brain. Like scientifically backed, change the state of your brain, which will then completely change the actions you take, which will then completely alter the results you produced, and that will completely change your experience of being alive. From one simple, I think it's kind of amazing. My favorite is apples. I don't know why, you guys. I always, like, if I'm really pissed, or really frustrated, or like those of you who are members, right? You saw the memo this month where I was like, son of a gun, right? Like that happens to all of us. And my go-to, I want you guys to pick your go-to for this week for you, but my go-to is apples. This is hysterical. It's a thing for me. When I walk into a grocery store and I see the 89,000 different apples I can choose from. Like there's the Gala, there's the Pink Lady. Pink Ladies are amazing, right? There's like the Fuji, there's the yellowish, greenish ones, and then there's the totally yellow ones, and then there's like the pinkish ones, then there's the dark red. It's like, oh my God. And I don't want that one, I want this one. No, not that one, this one. Nope, nope, nope. The abundance and the plethora of that will shut up my inner rebel really fast. And here's my thought process. I'm just sharing this with you. It actually comes from the Buddhist idea of the gratitude chain, that before you eat, so let's say you're gonna eat a burger. I don't eat meat, but if you were, right? So you think of the person who raised the cow. You think of the cow that gave birth to that cow. You go all the way back there, right? You think of the grass that was grown to feed the cow. You think of the person who slaughtered the cow. You think of the person who transported it, who packaged it for you, the chef who made it for you, and the person who brought it to you. Right, the gratitude chain. Like you actually think back to what had to happen for me to be able to do this right now. And anytime I do that, you guys, it just stops the like, God, and I'm just feeling that from so many people. So, and again, I think the other thing that's happening, you guys, with the fatigue, and this is just my perspective, I'm not saying I'm right. The other thing I'm seeing that's happening for people is the oversharing fatigue on social media. You don't have to share this with everybody. If you guys go look at my own personal Facebook page, I haven't posted since like November 7th. People don't have to know every single iota of your being unless you are wanting to openly share that with everybody. And then it comes across totally different, and people love exploring it with you and sharing it with you. But don't do it because you feel you have to, because that will produce the inner rebel sort of feeling. And I'm so sorry, the leaf collectors are coming by and I feel like they're very, very loud right now. So if you hear that noise, I'm sorry, and no, we're not experiencing an earthquake, but that's what it sounds like. Anyway, so for me, it's the apples that helps my inner rebel get quiet. For you, I'm welcome to take the gratitude chain. It's not mine. Like I said, it's a Buddhist practice. Or you're able to just actually think about the people that you love or the people that you'd like to serve today. As I always ask you in Coffee with Coach, who needs you today? And all of those questions, or all of those just perspective shifts, or just those moments of stillness just for a second, can slow it down. It's like watching the child in the supermarket on the floor screaming and yelling because they don't get the graham crackers or whatever it is they want in that moment. To just go, oh, I'm actually not hungry. I'm okay. Like it just, for the child. And if you watch the parent really be with the child, it's not engaging with the tantrum. It's engaging with the feeling behind the tantrum. I know, it's really awful, right? I know, it sucks. I know. It's just one of those things. I know, it's not fair. Yeah, I got it. And really, I call it almost granting being to somebody else. Like the being in front of you gets to have its experience. So if you are Zooming with family members this week, or you are pissed off that you're having to cook for 45 people when you really wanted to, or whatever the heck's going on for you. Everybody's got a different scenario. To just pull back for a second, grant yourself being, grant yourself that experience, okay? And then grant the people across from you that experience. Make sense? Okay, and then you have the gratitude change, or you can always think of apples or whatever it is for you that has you go, wow. There's a lot that goes into this. And for me, I didn't share this, I'm sorry, but for me, for the apples, I think of the hours and hours of nurturing and tending and growing and those trees and making sure the water temperature is right and making sure the ground's not too soaked and all of the love and care, all the people who had to pick it. Then they had to transport it. And then there I am in the supermarket, like annoyed that I'm having to take time out of my day to go pick it up. It's like, whoa. How many people had to work day in and day out for me to be able to go in and go, this one's bruised, I don't want it. Just sort of to slow down. I'm not saying I'm an ungrateful bastard or anybody else is either, right? But it's just this moment of like, whoa, let me just take a step back and recognize what's happening here. Let me just take a step back and recognize my part to play in this global chain of events that has happened to bring me where I am right now. And that can really just support us as we go through this, all right? And then I'm gonna get to stress and how that affects our bodies. All right. Kind of feels like at the beginning of the pandemic when people were getting really worked up and annoyed about with like, we are in the same boat and riding in the same storm. Yeah, it is very similar. I think that's what the gratitude posts are highlighting for people, and it's really upsetting them, right? Is it's like, yeah, how nice for you. You're grateful for that. Somebody I know lost her husband to suicide a couple of years ago. And she's like, how the hell am I supposed to write a gratitude post right now? And she did anyway, and she tried, but it's like, it really kind of stopped the rest of us to go, whoa, hold on, right. There are different levels of this, and it's not to take away from where you are. And that's really important too. A lot of people will be like, oh, woe is me. I'm like such a jerk because I'm grateful for my new car, right? When other people are grateful they have running water. You're not a jerk. You are allowed at any moment, this is granting yourself being, right? You are allowed at any moment to have the experience you are having where you are. And nobody else gets to judge that. And that's part of what social media's done, right? Is you feel like if you say you're grateful, you're gonna get judged because you're there judging other people's gratitude lists, right? Let's be honest about that. And that's where we're gonna get to forgiveness too. So first and foremost, I just want to talk to you guys about stress, and it is very connected to forgiveness and how this can literally save your life. And no, I'm not kidding. Who was with me live last October? We had a very special guest come and talk to us. She works on the brain trauma ward in a hospital, and she talked to us about what happens to women in strokes and how women in their 40s and 50s are really the bulk of the people she ends up seeing in the hospital. And the source of those strokes are, yes, diet and exercise. Obviously, we all know, you guys know I tell you to take care of your vessel. If you are not well, you cannot produce the way that you want to produce, and you cannot love the way that you want to love, and you cannot live the way you want to live, period. But the idea being that it's the stress for women that really elevates us. I heard from a different friend who's a nurse over this last weekend, and she called me crying because she listens to Coffee with Coach on the replay, and she said, you know, she was reading Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk, because I've been talking about that here. I might cry, I'm so sorry, but she had a woman come in over the weekend, and through this crazy chain of events, you know, when like, it's like a miracle that somebody ends up being saved in the hospital the way they were, like, something was supposed to take 4 to 6 weeks, but somebody canceled for the next day, so they slid her in, like just crazy. And they were like, oh my God, you have to go to the hospital right now. Like you are in mortal peril right now. She had recently gone through a divorce. She's only in her early 40s, gone through a really awful divorce. She was really upset. She's now a single mom of a daughter, works full time. And she showed up, and the blood vessels in her eyes were almost completely shot. Her vision had started to get funky, which is why she was there. Her blood pressure, I couldn't even tell you what the numbers are, but I was like this, like over 200 on the top and over 170 on the bottom, which if you don't know blood pressure, that is astronomical. That is like borderline off the charts. Like it took them several times to even be able to read it because it was so high. They said, you are seconds away from a catastrophic stroke. You are seconds away from your daughter walking in and finding you dead. And they worked on it with what is going on, right? What is happening? And she's so angry about the divorce, and she so cannot forgive. She literally almost killed herself. And I was so moved because this woman went out, and got her that book and said, please read this. It might very well save your life. Women are so much more likely to find themselves in that position, you guys, because we take on everything. So you're reading the gratitude post, you're like, shit, my life isn't as great as hers, right? You're like looking over there going, oh, my house doesn't look like hers. Or what an asshole to be talking about that, right? All of that stuff, that is poison. It is poison, you guys. Please forgive people this week. Those of you in the Gay Mom Girlfriend Project, there's some pretty serious work in there on that, right? Like it is like module like 1 or 2, like let's go, like let's deal with this, because you cannot create on top of poison. And this like resentment, this, even the inner rebel, right? You guys, the inner rebel who's like, F you, don't you tell me what to, like that's poison. And then you shove it down because you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to acknowledge. I'm so great. Everything's fine. I'm so happy. I love everyone. I'm gonna freaking kill, right? That thing that women do. We gotta tell the truth. You guys have to tell the truth. We do this, right? Like, or my life didn't turn out the way I expected it to. I thought I'd have kids. I thought I would be married. I never imagined I'd have kids. I never thought I'd get married, whatever it is, right? All those things that you think about are the norms that get put on women that don't get put on men quite the same way. And we're recognizing all of that. And you guys, you have to understand your inner rebel is at work during all of that. And you need to grant yourself being and grant yourself space. And let me tell you something. If the person you need to forgive today is you, or this week is you, please do so. If you're cooking, it doesn't have to be perfect. Make it enjoyable and make it about the conversation. Make it about, maybe everybody goes around the table and says, what's one thing you can forgive yourself for? Totally different spin, just as powerful. Women's stress must take precedence, absolutely, because we keep it and we carry it and we keep going, right? Literally to the point she was exploding her own vision because the blood vessels were starting to pop in her eyes because her blood pressure was so high. And it was all revolved around hate and a lack of ability to forgive, which we've all felt, right? Like we can have total empathy for that. Like, dude, I totally get how that just happened. But she's going to drop dead if she doesn't turn it around. Yeah? And the other thing I learned from that, you guys, is keep speaking your truth. If I hadn't talked about what I talk about here, she wouldn't have been able to share it with her. And then, see what I'm saying? Get out there and do your job. Do what you are here to do, because you do not know who you're helping. You do not know whose lives you're changing. I don't care if it's a photograph. I don't care if it's what you say. I don't care if it's a post you create. I don't care if it's a podcast you produce. I don't care. You guys, stop being afraid to get your message out there. Please stop being afraid. And if your inner rebel is screaming and yelling, please love her up. She's just pissed because she thinks nobody can see her or hear her. And God, we all know what that feels like. Don't make yourself wrong because you feel trapped or you feel upset or you feel jealous. Listen to what those emotions are telling you. Listen and process and be with and get out there and do what you're here to do. I don't know how to say it any stronger than that. Stress and anxiety, exactly what affected my ability to walk, especially in 2020. You're so glad I'm talking about this. It is different for men. And that goes, you guys, to the more connective tissue we have in our brains between our emotional side and our logical side, right? This is why men don't multitask well, because they don't have as much connective tissue. So they literally, physiologically can compartmentalize in a way we can't. And that's part of the stress we carry. But please start with self-forgiveness and not being hard on yourself for having whatever reaction you're having. You're allowed to be jealous. All that tells you is like, wow, I thought I'd be in a different place than I am right now. Holy cow, what do I need to do about that? And turn it to you and go, I'm capable. If I want that, hell, I can do that. Do you see the difference? Like, jealousy just tells you you're not where you thought you would be. So figure it out. There are people here to help you do that, by the way. Yeah, all right. I think women are more inherently empathetic, so we hold this stress. Yeah, and it's really about, you guys, you gotta forgive. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not the first person to say this, but I love this phrase so much. Please hear me. Resentment is like drinking poison, hoping someone else will die. And this woman in the hospital almost bared that out. Could you imagine her 9-year-old daughter coming home to her dead on the kitchen floor? Literally, it can save your life. Stop holding on. Other people are going to behave badly. It's going to happen. You want to keep it alive and keep replaying it over and over and over? Or are you ready to do something with your life? Dead serious. It's not a rhetorical question. And on the week of giving thanks, you got to forgive first. All right, you guys, this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. Like, you don't have to do gratitude posts. You don't have to talk about the apples in the grocery store to be like, see, I'm so good. I'm so grateful. It's Thanksgiving week in America and I'm great. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. You don't have to do stuff other people tell you to do. That, and by the way, that's not even gratitude. I don't know what the hell that is. Unless it comes from your heart. Like there are moments, you guys, you know how often I cry, but there are literally moments I can burst into tears in the produce section. I know I'm weird, but literally I'm like overwhelmed by the amount of invisible work that has to get done for me to go in there and be annoyed that I have to take time out of my day to go select which one I want. It really wakes me up. Now that's my thing. It doesn't have to be your thing, but there's something in your life where you have a moment where you're like, whoa. It could be beautiful clothing where you're like, oh my God, do you see this seam? And being grateful, there was somebody who had to learn how to do that so that the clothes hang just a certain way or cover your neck the way you like. Right? Like, oh my God, how grateful can we be for that? I love this jewelry. You guys, I bought these. They're my favorite. And I wore them today because I bought them when I called off my wedding in my early 20s, late 20s. I don't remember how, 26. I was 26, 27. And I called off my wedding and I went shopping with a girlfriend. And every time I wear these, I was so grateful that I knew to make that decision, that I set both of us free. And that's what these mean to me. I don't know who made them. I don't remember, but I'm grateful every time I put them on. Somebody stitched this together and made it fall a certain way. That means so much. Do you get what I'm saying? And I don't have to post that on Facebook to prove that I'm grateful about stuff. Neither do you. Okay, if it moves you and you're like, oh my God, you know what occurred to me today, you guys? And you want to share that, by all means. But please don't do it in a performative way. That's why it feels so crappy. And that's why when you see the posts that land crappy, it's because that person was being performative. Don't judge them, right? They're trying to do their best too. But just get that that goes both ways. You're going to feel it. You're going to know. Yes, this weekend I unapologetically rested and chilled. I didn't give a damn what I had to do. I forgave myself for always doing and going all the time. That's beautiful. And I have to share you, my sister friend, I had the exact same weekend. I just stopped everything. Around Friday at like 4, I was like, and that's a wrap. For almost all of 2020. Like I was just like done. Totally got it. And I had to do the same thing like Sarah, it's okay. Take a break. It's okay. I have a friend who is who's a burnout coach, and she offers a resentment journal rather than a gratitude journal. Brilliant. Absolutely. That's lovely. Awesome, because you guys, we carry it around and then act all pious and nice on the outside. So big. Oh, and also doing a worry journal. Also great. Yeah. So I promise you guys one thing you could do all week long to keep your spirits high because of our collective loss of innocence. And what the loss of innocence, I don't know about you guys, but for those of us with us in America, right? Thanksgiving's like my favorite. I cook everything from scratch because I'm crazy. I love it. Like it's when I just get crazy. We even have what we call polygamous stuffing because my great-grandfather and great-grandmother were both children of polygamous families, and it is my great-grandfather's recipe, so my husband lovingly calls it polygamous stuffing. That's another story for another time. But it's my favorite, and this year, I don't really get to do much, right? And my husband's parents really want to share with us, which is fine, so I had to rent a tent outside so that we would all be safe and be able to protect them. And it's not the way I like it. I don't want to eat outside in the rain. That does not sound fun at all. I'm pretty annoyed, right? If I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty annoyed about it. And we're all going through that in some way or another. I was even walking the new dog, and we have an older couple up the street, and I said, oh, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I know it's going to be unusual. And she said, oh, it's just the two of us. And of course, I like almost tear up, right? Everybody's going through this in some way. This is what I call our collective loss of innocence. And what this means for us, you guys, is an understanding, again, that while everything out there is temporary, right? It's going to change, it's going to alter. We never know quite exactly how it's going to unfold. That our response to it is always 100% within our control. So all week long, I would implore you or invite you, whatever you would like, to wear something, okay? Wear something or have a reminder on your phone that just has you stop for a second and look at what's in front of you. And I don't mean you have to go, I'm so grateful for my camera. I'm so grateful for my curtains. I'm not interested in that at all. You guys know me long enough. I don't care about that stuff. Just to stop for a second. Was the food I ate today safe? Do I have running water? Was my coffee hot? Do I have a floor? Do I have different shoes to choose from? Do I love the people around me right now? And if you don't, that's okay. Send a private message to someone you love. You can create that feeling of love out of thin air at any time whenever you need to, okay? Don't let that be an excuse. I don't always love everybody we all have to be around, right? We all have gone through that of like, that's not my favorite person. Hi, everything, right? But who do you love? And do they know? Start there and you'll create the feeling of love. Okay, so that's the one thing I'd like you to do all week long. You can wear something, a ring, a bracelet, earrings, a pin, a brooch, whatever it is you want to do to remind you. And what this reminds me of when I called off my wedding is it reminds me of self-trust. You guys know that's my number one element for all of you is you've got to learn to trust yourselves. If you're going to work with a really expensive coach, trust yourself to make the best decision. Right? If you're going to move and change houses, trust yourself to make the best decision. If you're going to call off a wedding after that train's already taken off, trust the decision. Self-trust. That for me is what this means. So you want to find the thing that matters most to you and make sure you keep it present for yourself. All right, not to get maudlin, but Dad had a stroke during Thanksgiving in 2000 and he's gone now and Mom is in assisted living. So Thanksgiving can be a tough day for her and for us. So important to focus on our blessings and remember what a great dad he was, and I'm so blessed to have him. Absolutely. Whatever you want to do to keep him present with you all day, do it. My daughter last night, we were talking to my dad, who's obviously can't be with us this year, and she said, we're gonna set a place for you and put a laptop on the plate. And I was like, we are? And then I was like, that's freaking brilliant. But that was her idea of like how to keep him present for us, is actually have him here with us as much as possible. Now he's still living, so that was one case. But I know other people are putting up pictures in certain places because people can't be there, both because they passed or because they can't travel. So there's lots of ways for you to create the feeling of love. Please don't step back and let this run over you. Remember that at any moment you can take back control just by breathing slowly and remembering that you are always in charge of your outlook and you're always in charge of your character. Who are you showing up as for other people? How are you sharing what you love and who you are with other people? And who needs you today?